Namaste from Los Angeles, Namaste to Canada, and Namaste to India. Today we are celebrating World Health Day, 7th April 2022. I would like to welcome all the participants, especially Dharmic ji. Namaskar Dharmic ji. And all the participants. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely absence of disease, according to WHO. But yoga is a way of life. During this COVID, during this pandemic, I think the whole world has learned a lesson. The lesson is learned that health is very important, the environment is very important, and society, the cohesion is also very important, because if one is sick, it can make the complete community sick. On behalf of Institute for Sports and Fitness Development, under the aegis of Society for Sports and Fitness Development, duly registered with Niti Aayog and International Association of Therapists, Ashta Yoga, affiliated with Yoga Alliance USA, and also continuing education provider, I, Dr. Anjum Padyal, would like to welcome all the participants and those who will watch us later on YouTube. Thank you all. Today, I would like to invite our speaker, Acharya Bramdeo Mokoonlall ji. Acharya Bramdeo Mokoonlall ji has had an inclusive educational background, science, banking, University of Mauritius, management, ABE, UK, and he is Darshanacharya, Vedic philosophy, Darshan Yog Mahavidyalaya, Gujarat, India, and a diverse career in financial service, industry, and at Arya Sabha, Mauritius. He has been a key resource person for Arya Sabha Mauritius on the universal Vedic values, yoga and meditation, and on interfaith and intercultural dialogue at various national and international forums. The Mauritius Council of Religion, Arya Pratinidhi Sabha America, Greater Atlanta Vedic Temple and Hindu Center of Atlanta, Yoga and Meditation Center in CUNY. He is author of numerous insightful articles on Vedic philosophy and contemporary issues in English and French. Today, he is joining us from Arya Samaj, Markhand, Toronto, Canada. And today we are going to focus on yoga as a tool for holistic living and rising human consciousness. Welcome, Acharya ji, and stage is all yours.
Namaste, everybody. I'll just start my screen sharing. So, namaste and welcome. Sabhi ka swagat hai. Let's start by bringing our mind to focus, sitting down straight, closing the eyes gently, and deep inhale and exhale. Focus on our breathing process. And we are going to chant the universal sound Om 3 times. So, namaste and welcome to all, and thanks for having me in your midst again. And probably some of you may have been following us will find me a bit moving here and there, but that's part of life. So let's go direct to the subject. We are talking about World Health Day. And if we look at the approach to wellness, probably let's look at the goals of life. Some say, I want to be successful, other rich, other famous. And from what we know from our Sanatan Dharma, it says, Putreshna, Lokeshna, Vitteshna. We are just chasing these worldly things. But at the end, question is, are we really happy in life? And that is where the question leads us. When you're talking about health, ultimate goal is to be happy at the level of the body, mind, and spirit. And then we can also connect to well-being around us. So if you look at what World Health Organization defines as health or wellness, it says it is state of complete physical, mental, social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. And just look at the word disease. If you break it into two, it says this is, when we are not at ease. So it can be physical, mental, social, and all the scope of life. And that was inscribed in 1948 in the constitution of WHO. And it goes with what Sanatan Dharma teaches us on well-being. Well, the goals of human life, if I would put it in short form, as per what Vyas Bhashya explains to us in Yoga Darshan, it says, Dukhon se chhotna, sukh ki prapti. Stay away from pains and sufferings and be happy. When we talk about holistic health, is it just a question of food habits, life pattern, lifestyle, exercise, going to gyms? Or is it about the whole, our dincharya, that is day-to-day activities at each and every moment we are living life? We'll come to that from the various texts. When we talk about lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle, it's not only about food, it's not only about exercise, it's also about our relationships, our behavior. And if we look at historical data, it was the same in the ancient forms. We had pandemics throughout history, we had wars throughout history. But unfortunately, men, when disconnected with the spiritual aspect of life, then the blockages start. Unfortunately, after 2 years in the COVID era, we are in the third year of the COVID era, we've seen another form of disturbance, the war between Russia and Ukraine. Despite the mental burdens of COVID, now we've got an addition on our menu. So we'll see into it how the various texts, especially we'll look into the yoga philosophy, but I'll make an overview first. And then we'll come to the approach. When we say about yoga or the philosophy of wellness, as I'm going to take the approach, is from the historical or ancient scriptures. I'll take it one by one and give you some of the examples. And how do we connect yoga in daily life? And look for, probably, as we say, the word sustainable is very prized today. That also, if we want sustainability in wellness, we should connect to what yoga, Ayurveda, and the other text gives us on wellness. And remember, when we are talking about these texts, I'm not talking about the rituals, I'm talking on the fundamentals behind the rituals, which is spiritual connection. And these spiritual connections are universal. And we look also at the various steps in the practice of real yoga. Yoga philosophy teaches us, Hey Hetu Han Upai. Know the causes, and knowing the causes will empower us to stay away from sufferings and afflictions. And Han Upai, adopt the principles to be happy. Sanatan Dharma and wellness. If we go to the text, first, जिसको हम मूल ग्रंथ बोलते हैं, the root scriptures, the Vedas, ample definition and ways of how to address wellness. I'm not going to limit it to health, but I'm taking wellness as a whole. And Ayurveda is the science of life. It's not the science of healing. Unfortunately, when we talk about Ayurveda, we think about healing. No, it's this science of living long, healthy, prosperous life. Then we have the Darshan, Shastra, Yoga, Sankhya, Vaisheshik, Nyaya, etc. We have this system of sanskaras, and then we have at the end, the last text which we have in our itihas, in historical records, is the Gita. Let's look at the first. Ved means knowledge. Revelation and acknowledge are the oldest book in the library of mankind. I'll just take a few references on wellness. This mantra I shared this morning, I don't know those who are in the group, but you can also look into it. It says, Om Pashyema Sharadaha Shatam, Om Jivema Sharadaha Shatam, Om Rohema Sharadaha Shatam, Om Pushema Sharadaha Shatam, Om Bhavema Sharadaha Shatam, Om Bhuyema Sharadaha Shatam, Om Bhuyasi Sharadaha Shatam. It simply means we are praying for a full life of 100 seasons, that is 100 years plus. A wonderful life of wellness, a life full of seeing, understanding, acceptance, compassion, empathy. A life full of living, no scarcity, abundance, and no extravagance, that is moderation. And yoga philosophy joins us here in aparigraha. Then a life full of learning, that is, we always be in the continuous learning curve and apply that knowledge in day-to-day life. A life full of ascending, grow well, sound mind, body, and spirit. A life full of thriving, prosper both materially and spiritually. A life full of growing, peace, progress, and prosperity. And remember, all the text doesn't tell us only to grow spiritually. It's all both with the mundane, worldly happiness as well as the spiritual bliss. And how does the Veda connect us to yoga? It says, Yunjanaha prathamam manastattvaya savitadhiya. Yunjanaha, connect. Prathamam, first. Manastattvaya, man, that is which we call mind. We have no equivalent for that. Connecting the mind to what? Savitadhiya. That is through dhyan, through meditation, connect to Savita, the creator of this world. Then yunjate manauta yunjate dhiyo vipra viprasya brihato vipashchita. That connection of the mind we need. Yunjate mana, yunjate dhiyo, connect with meditation. Vipra viprasya. This word points to knowledge, to be learned with knowledge. Brihato vipashchita, connect to brihat, that is connecting the soul to the supreme soul, Atma or Paramatma. Then we all know this famous mantra from the Upanishad. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschit dukhabhag bhavet. Even the prayers are universal. It says, Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, may all be happy. Sarve santu niramaya, May all be healthy, none be suffering. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. May we, whatever we look at all sides, these be auspicious to us. So we need also to be doing things which are auspicious for the whole world. Ma kashchit dukha bhag bhavet, may none be suffering. And when we come to Om Shanti Shanti, this is about the Trivid Dukh, Adhyatmic, Adhidaivik, and Adhibautik, which we say sufferings, pains, and afflictions for which we ourselves the cause. And that is Adhyatmic. Adhibautik, which is pains and sufferings that arise from interactions with other living beings. And Adhidaivik, these are the natural calamities. And when we come to Samkhya Darshan, one page on that, then we'll see the details. Then we come to Ayurveda, Charak Samhita and Shushruta Samhita. The focus on the very first part of both Charak Samhita and Shushruta Samhita is about Ahar, Vichar, Vyavahar before going into curative. This is the preventive or the way to live good life. I'm just referring to the book of, this one is Sushrut Samhita. It says, इस आयुर्वेद शास्त्र में पृथ्वी, अप, तेज, वायु और आकाश इन पंचभूतों के और आत्मा के संयोग का नाम पुरुष है. So when we are looking into that, we are not looking only at the body made of the 5 gross elements of matter. We have to know there is the soul there, Atma. ये व्याधियां 4 प्रकार के हैं, आगंतुक, शारीरिक, मानसिक और स्वाभाविक. So whatever be the pains, sufferings, afflictions, some come from outside, some from at our own physical level, mental level, and some from our nature. And then it says, Sharirik Rog, Anapan. I'm not reading the Sanskrit shlokas, I'm just going into the Hindi and then giving it in English. Sharirik Rog, Anapan ke karan, evam vat, pit, kaf, aur rakt, inse evam, in case sarvapan रूप में विषमता से उत्पन्न होते हैं. मानसिक रोग, क्रोध, शोक, भय, हर्ष, सुख, दुख, ईर्ष्या, दीनता, काम, लोभ आदि से इच्छा और द्वेष. So we can connect to also the holistic approach in yoga philosophy. And it says स्वाभाविक रोग, भूख, प्यास, वृद्धावस्था, मृत्यु, निद्रा आदि. So I'm just giving you the an overview of that with 2 free shlokas from Ayurveda. And remember, Ayurveda focuses about Satogun, Rajogun, and Tamogun in our food habits and even in our behavioral patterns. It says, Jaisa Anna, Vaisa Man, Jaisa Ahar, Vaisa Vichar, Vaisa Vyavahar. So we need, the first step is to be careful about our food habits, then our thoughts, then our behavior. And for that, Ayurveda recommends Hita book, Mita book, and the Rita book. Hit book is about having food which allows us to maintain good health, and especially for kids or for those who are growing, to grow well. Mita book is that we need to take food in the appropriate amount, respect food, and look at the processes behind the cooking of the food. And it even says we need to be careful about our earnings. We should only eat from our honest earnings. And the Rita book is about the preparation. We need also to be careful on that, because whatever flows into our mind at the moment of preparing food, that will also, however sattvic the ingredients may be, if our vritti, our mindset is tamasic or rajasic, that food goes in the same manner. So we see the holistic approach to wellness. It goes into the subtleness of the things, not only on the gross level. And Ayurveda, we all know about the three gunas and the three doshas. So we need to maintain that balance, identify, learn to recognize our own body, the nature of our own body. And when we know the nature of our own body, it's easy to manage the three doshas. Then Sankhya philosophy talks about the Trivid Dukh. It says the first sutra of Sankhya Darshan, Trivid Dukkha Atyanta Nivritti Atyanta Purusharth. So to liberate ourselves from Dukh, from pains, afflictions, ill health, etc., we need to put up the optimum, Atyanta Purusharth, optimum physical and mental efforts to attain that stage. And going further into down the line, we have the system of 16 sanskar. And I will just give you the example. We know we are now in the period of Ram Navami, celebrating the birth of Sri Ram. Unfortunately, we celebrate Ram Navami just sticking to the rituals. Are we learning from the character of Sri Ram? हम चरित्र की पूजा को छोड़ करके बस चित्र की पूजा तक सीमित हैं. Where our focus should have been more on charitra ki puja, that is, learn from the life of Sri Ram and try to be the ideal person. And to give the example of how sanskar influenced that, well, remember when Dashrath didn't have a child, he went to the rishis seeking guidance. They advised process of putrishti, which is garbhadhan sanskar, which involves a minimum period of celibacy before going into relationship, very careful pattern of food, behavior, ahar, vichar, vyavahar in the whole concept. Then Sri Ram was born. So if we want our kids, our children, grandchildren to be on that same pattern, let's follow that same example which the rishis gave to Dashrath. And that is not only applicable to people living in India or people who are of the Hindu faith, but it's applicable to the whole world. And even if you see most of the research about the importance of sanskar is probably outside India in Germany, among the German universities where Sanskrit is being taught. Then let's look at the Gita. Unfortunately, when we look at the Gita, we try to think about Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, separate path in life. But Gita 6.03, when it says Aru Rokshora Munera Yogam Karma, Karana Muchyate Yoga Rodasya Tasyaiva, Shama Karana Muchyate, Shlok, chapter 6, third shlok. And most of the translators which I've been reading have referred to yoga there as Ashtang Yoga. And if Ashtang Yoga is none else than the yoga philosophy, which has been explained to us by Maharshi Patanjali. And as I showed you, this is delved from the roots scriptures of Hinduism, of Sanatan Dharma. And remember, Vedas are not only for Hindus, it's meant for the whole world. So this is that. Then now let's look into the depth of the subject of today, yoga, holistic approach to wellness. Yoga philosophy, we have that Hatha Yoga part, which is from Hatha Yoga Pradipika. And my advice to people on this platform today would be just try to stick to the basics of Hatha Yoga Pradipika, because these are proven. I've seen people doing Surya Namaskar instead of 12 postures, coming up to 26 postures. The addition have not been proven. Like people doing yoga, like one example is hot yoga, doing it at a room which is heated above our body temperature. What would be the long-term effects on that? Then people doing pranayama everywhere and at all places, irrespective of whether they had food and drinks before, and what would be the effect of that? लोग कहते हैं जब भी हमारे पास समय है तो कर लें, yes, but respect. You need to have had foods not later than 2 hours before you do the practice. Drinks probably 1 hour before the practice. That also depends. If it's only liquid, okay. If it's smoothie, then it's 2 hours. So we need to be careful. And Ayurveda teaches us on Rita book, Mita book, and Hita book. So Rita book, according to the principles, let's follow that. I'm going to integrate the whole knowledge now. So be careful on Hatha Yoga. There are rules to be followed. Whatever the world is doing, that's their problem. Let's preserve our health. As we say, Ayurveda, the knowledge of long, healthy, prosperous life. Let's not be wearing blinkers and follow the world blindly. Let's have the holistic approach to the knowledge handed over to us since creation of humanity. Vedas, Upanishad, Darshan, Shastra, and Ayurveda. We've got the philosophy of Maharishi Patanjali on Yoga Darshan and the other philosophies, which are all concluding to one point. We need to regulate our life. Samay pe khana, samay pe sona, samay pe vyayam karna, each and everything. It's not a hard and fast timetable. It's also according to desh, kal, paristhiti, circumstances, place and time. Like if you're traveling in a flight, you can't do yogasana there. If you're traveling in a train, you can't do yogasana there. So for that 1 or 2 days that you're traveling, you'll skip. For that 1 or 2 days when you're traveling, you can't do meditation for 20 minutes or for half an hour, whatever you practice. But you can do it for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever be the circumstances. So it's desh, kal, paristhiti also. Like when you're living in a cold country, you can't go outside and sit down in pranayam. Like when I came to Toronto, it was minus 23, minus 30. So you can't just sit down and do pranayam outside. You better be in the room with a heater on at a reasonable temperature. That also ati nahi karna hai. So these are the principles, and we'll go one by one when we go into yam and yam. So the first sutra of Yoga Darshan defines what is yoga. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is the nirodha, silencing of chitta vritti, the flux of mental activities. And I also include emotional activities for one simple reason. The reason being, we can cease the mental activities, but we're still connected emotionally, then it would be hard to practice the philosophy of Nishkam Seva in Nishkam Karma in Gita and Nishkam Karma in Yajurveda, 40th chapter. So this is the basis. Yog from the Ved, the word yog is from Yuj. Yuj means connect, and the ultimate connection is, if I take it on our level, it's physical body, mind, and spirit. This is the first connection to be established. So we need a sound body for a sound mind and a sound spirit. Practice of yoga, asanas, as per Hatha Yoga Pradipika, fine for good physical health. To some extent, mental health. But if we want to tackle the problem of mental health, then we need to go into the practice of yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. Though this is not described in the Gita as one philosophy, we can connect various shlokas to each of these steps. That is probably another lecture for another time. And after that, that is the cycle. And remember, the first step is yama, second niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. Yama, ahimsa, satya, steya, brahmacharya, aparigraha. This is for social wellness, for maintaining peace and harmony from me to my family and to the outside world. It starts with me. Then niyama, this is personal to me. Sauch, santosh, tapas, swadhyay, ishwar pranidhan. That is, ahimsa is non-violence, non-violence in thoughts, words, and actions. Satya, truth, asteya, non-stealing, brahmacharya, self-control, self-restraint, aparigraha, non-possessiveness. Then Sauch, cleanliness, santosh, be content, tapa is about developing resilience, swadhyay, study of the scriptures to gain knowledge, and ishwar pranidhan, be careful. Whatever be the faith, it always says God is looking at us and we will have to reap what we sow on karma philosophy. That's why ishwar pranidhan is there. Question is, karma philosophy, which everybody in this world agrees, if we do good, we'll reap goodness. If we do bad, we'll reap badness. That is universal. And even for those who think that kahin pe humne tirth kar liye, or we've gone for confession, and if these are going to absolve us of our sins, then we are on the wrong path. Because in whatever happens, we say there's the last day of the judgment. Some call it Qayamat Ke Din, some call it the last day of the judgment, and we say that we are going to be reborn according to the karma that we've done, and that we'll look into when we look into further of the Yoga Darshan. So yama niyama, social discipline and personal discipline, very important in life to have good physical balance, mental balance, and then that will filter down in social hygiene. Then let's go now into the depth of it. For whatever we do in life, one word, key word is abhyas, repeated practice. Vairagya, non-attachment, nishkam, spirit. Nirodha, so control of the flux of mental activities and emotional activities comes with regular practice and with detachment from whatever we are doing. And remember, when we are doing things in the spirit of detachment, whatever happens, we'll take it in the spirit of santosh. Be content. And if we look at problem of the world of today, we are not content with what we have, but we are more unhappy for the things that we don't have. So we're losing our time. Instead of being happy for the things that we have, we are being unhappy for the things that we don't have. Be it physical level, mental level, or social level. It's all like this. Then how will the practice comes to bring us the positive results in life? Whether it's on diet, whether it's on exercise, whether it's on meditation, and I'll bring it down to day-to-day life. Whether it's on cleaning my room, whether in setting a discipline in my life, whether in cooking food, first time I may have done it as it came, but with long practice, dirghkal, then with regular consistency in my practice, nirantarya, with lots of passion, dedication, satkara sevito. I'll reach that spirit of drir bhumi, firm grounds. और सिद्धियां जो हम जीवन में प्राप्त करना चाहते हैं वो बिना इस सूत्र से हम प्राप्त नहीं कर पाते. There is no such thing that the guru can transfer his siddhi to you without you doing any practice. He can only show you the path, but the practice is yours. So I always say it starts with me, and then I can be the guide to others. And Sankhya concurs with Yoga. Sankhya says, Atha trivid dukha atyantra nivrittir athantya purushat. It describes the three types of pains, afflictions, and sorrows: Adhyatmik, Adhibautik, and Adhidaivik dukha. Adhyatmik, distress arising from within oneself, physical, mental, then conflicting, insatiable desires, mistakes, etc. Adhyatmic, for which we are ourselves responsible. We may have physical illness, but if we stay on complaining rather than tackling the problem will never get solved. Mental distress is the same. Then about our desires, we have to set limits, because this world has been made to fulfill the needs of all, but if we take the whole world as a whole, it's not enough to satisfy the desire of one single person. If we look at the billionaires of the world, they are still working to look at the billions, making it trillions. And the other thing is that whatever profit one is making, it's always at the detriment of somebody else. And if I bring it to Ayurveda teachers, आपके खाने जो है वो आपके औषधि है. Our food is our medicine. Let's not take food now and later we'll be taking medicine as food. Let's take the food now as medicine so that we'll spare ourselves from that phase of life where we'll be just swallowing the pills instead of eating food. And Aushadhi in Sanskrit, from the Vedas and the Shastras, it refers to crops that give one harvest and they die, like rice, barley, wheat, the lentils, dal, chawal, jaw, gehu, adi. Then the others are referred to as vanaspati, for the plants that continues to give fruits and others repeatedly across several years. So the first element of our physical wellness is the food aushadhi. And in the life of a child, remember, the mother's milk is recommended till 6 months. And after 6 months, we have the Annaprashan Sanskar, which delve into making very liquid food, khichdi, very liquid khichdi of what? Rice and moong dal. And let's look at the misunderstanding also. The best of dal that we have is moong and urad. And in Sanskrit, it's referred as masha. हमने क्या किए? माशा को मांस बना दिए. This is where the world has gone wrong. And in that same way of living, if I take one bull, it takes about 7 years to reach that maturity phase. And for each and every year, it eats probably the grass that we can cut from about 7 acres of land. So over that 7 years, it's 49 acres of land. Now with the additional feed that they give, but they are clearing up the forest and everything, then the ensuing climate crisis and all. It's all a chain. And if we go on that level of aparigraha, non-possessiveness, that is, we don't need, we keep only what is needed for a decent, healthy living. Then on the basis of brahmacharya, self-restraint, then we won't go into the overuse or abuse of the resources of this world. I just give you one example. From 1 acre of land, you will get probably 2 tons or 5 tons, depending on the place and the weather and the quality of the soil. You can get probably an average, say 3 tons or 5 tons of rice or wheat. If somebody has to eat that, or we say let's distribute that, 7 acres makes about, with an average of 3 tons, it makes 21 tons. Over 7 years, it makes 140 tons. I'm just going to gross calculations. It makes what? 140 tons of rice. If somebody has only rice without any other addition, how many plates can we serve from 140 tons? Say maximum one person will eat 500 grams of rice in a meal. So that makes 280,000 plates. But from one beef which is killed, probably one person, if he eats 1 kg, so it will serve the one-time diet for 100 persons. I'm not talking about the other concepts of ahimsa, or which we are not following, the concept of non-violence. Some will say that when we are buying, we are not killing, we are not part and parcel of that. Just remember, yoga philosophy tells us karma is from krit, karit, anumodit. Krit, what we do our own selves, what we cause others to do, and anumodit, where we give our consent. So if we are not doing ourselves, we are causing others to kill when we are buying, and then we are also giving our consent by buying. So look at the subtle level of where we've gone into non-violence. So we need to look at it, and then from unhealthy diet, obviously when we are suffering, that is adhyatmic dukkha. Then the other aspect is adibhautik dukkha. It's interactions with others, like animal attacks, bites, etc. But in the world of today, the most visible, war, genocides, disputes between family and friends, mental torture, harassment, exploitation, etc. But if I take the 3rd year of COVID, which we are living, COVID also is both adhyatmic, adibhautik. I would add adidaivik. It's adhyatmic because we've been not following the guidelines. We've been ignoring the guidelines of the health authorities. Adibhautik, we interfered with wildlife species. So let's learn this self-restraint, non-violence towards all living beings in this world, and then ahimsa, satya, let's be truthful to ourselves. It's not that others are not seeing us, we can do whatever we like, but let's be truthful to us, and that truth will lead us to mental peace. Asteya, non-stealing, again the subtle form of stealing. Because when we steal, we are going to be mentally disturbed. That is adhyatmic dukkha. Lest somebody has seen us stealing, or what if we are caught later with evidence? Then brahmacharya is about self-restraint. and self-restraint gives the equanimous state of mind, because we'll be respected and will respect others in our life. Aparigraha, I've told you, one example is about the world. We are going on a diet which is now over exploiting the resources of the world. Then the wealthy want to become wealthier and wealthier. Obviously, when some people will grow healthy, so wealthy, some people will grow poorer. But if people have gone on that path, I have a problem of, I'll continue talking, my computer has just rebooted. But if we go on that path, where we are caring for the environment around us, and caring for the environment around us obviously will reach a level of physically, mentally, morally, spiritually, and socially, will have the balance in all the aspects of our life. And going into further details now, after Adibhautik Dukh, then we have Adhyatmic Dukh. This includes the natural calamities. Tsunami, cyclones, tornadoes, earthquakes, these are bound to happen. And yoga philosophy tells us, if we want to save ourselves from these distresses, दुखों से छूट कर सुख की प्राप्ति करना, and that eternal sukh is after samadhi, reaching the place of where we are now in communion with Almighty Ishwar. So when we are talking about the free dukkhas, Trivid dukkha, it's always on this pattern. And when we are praying also, Om Shanti, 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 this is what we are looking for. I'll just reconnect my laptop. Just give me 1 minute, please. It just rebooted in the midst of the... It's back. Thank you. So that was Adibhautik Dukh, and then the Adidaivik Dukh, which is about agony arising from natural calamities. But then look at what other species can do with natural calamities. They have the foresight. Like when flood is about to come, the ants go well below the ground. When winter comes, the birds go and look for shelter. They hibernate. They know how to protect each other. So if we go into the depth of yoga philosophy, the meditation part, we'll also develop the siddhiya as per the 3rd chapter of Yoga Darshan, Siddhipad. We can also become as very fast recognizing the forces of nature, and we can help to be in total balance. And then yoga connects us to another thing. It says avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh. These are the 5 kleshas. And the 5 kleshas are there. So it says avidya, the absence of knowledge, incorrect knowledge, partial knowledge, illusion, all the things. What do? They are the clouds on our mind. And we can see what happens. Unclean matters as clean, pain and sorrow as pleasure, and inert matter as living. I give you one example. Unclean matters as clean. We know things are bad for our health, but we continue to indulge in them. Pain and sorrow as pleasure. What is addiction? Addiction is pain and sorrows, but we continue to plunge in that. So if we go on this philosophy, we'll see where it leads us. We need proper knowledge in life, and we need to connect that knowledge to our day-to-day life. Then it says asmita, the concept of individuality, me, mine, and myself. And this is where the grabbing attitude also starts. We forget that the mind, body, and soul are part and parcel of the same unit when we are in this life. So we need to care not only for the body, but also for the mind and for the soul. Then a rag, just stay away from inordinate attachment or addiction to mental impressions or objects. Because what happens when these things fail or stop giving us pleasure, then it turns into aversion, dvesh. And this is one of the causes of suffering. Mental suffering is bound to impact our physical health. Then abhinivesh, the fear of death, or to overcome that fear of death, we pretend that death is for others, will be continue to live in this world. No, let's know that everything which is born has an end in this world. And our scriptures tells us that there is an end even also to this world. And if we go into the details, we are about half the life cycle of this universe. Then it tells us also to control these things. So through brahmacharya, self-restraint, control lust, anger, greed, fascination, or infatuation. If we want mental peace, let's stay away from these. And that, when we stay away from that, that is going to impact our physical health. Remember also another shlok, Sutra of Yoga Darshan. Parinam tap sanskar dukkhair guna vritti virodhascha dukhameva sarvam vivekena. Because of changes in life, change, transformation, consequence. Like a child is born, grow into an infant, grow into youth, adulthood, but then after adulthood, there's going to be the decline. And then what happens when the decline starts? More and more of our time goes into trying to maintain the artificial makeup of this body instead of accepting the reality. And then do Hatha Yoga to maintain good health. Do pranayam, do asana, but then go also on the path of meditation to maintain that mental balance. Then for whatever pain and hardship that may come, we'll also be able to accept them and gradually develop resilience. It says parinam tap sanskar dukkha. I will just give an example. I have prepared good food, but kahin us pe chipkali gir gaya ya makhi par gaya. What do? If I'm unhappy, instead of preparing another meal, I'm unhappy, I will get distressed. Forget about it, jo hua so hua. Let it be. And from there on, we'll move on in life. So that is parinam dukh. Sanskar dukh. One example. Somebody takes 1 peg of alcohol today. After a month, it becomes 2. After a year, it becomes half a bottle. After 3 years, it becomes a bottle. And this is addiction. And it's going to lead not only to dukh, physical hardship for the person, but for all in his family around him. So that is pain, hardship. So sanskar, dukh is from that point of view. Those sanskar have the good meaning, but as we say, words in Sanskrit have multiple meanings depending upon the circumstances. Then we should know also about repeated experiences. At times we become hard-headed or block-headed. We fail to see the whole picture. We think only that part of the puzzle which is in our hand, this is the whole picture. Whereas the whole picture is the whole puzzle. We fail to look at the greater picture or the wider horizon. Then there's also the conflicting operations of the gunas, which are all changing. I always use the reference of a bright red apple, Satogun Pradhan, Satogun presiding, leave it in open air for a week, it starts shriveling. That activity which is started is demonstration of Rajogun now taking over. And then if it's left for another 1 week, it starts leaching, rotting, and that is Satogun Pradhan. So it depends upon us also, where do we want to maintain our physical state, our mental state, whether we want it to be more Satogun presiding or Tamogun presiding or Rajogun presiding. And this is also comes in perfect harmony with the teaching of the Gita and Ayurveda also. Then yoga leads us also to identify what are the hurdles to wellness. Vyadhis, Dhyan, Sanshay, Pramad, Alasya, Virati, Bhranti, Darshanan, Alabdha Bhumi Katvat, Anavasthitvani, Chitta Vikshepa Antaraya. Though that applies to meditation, to the process of yoga, yam, yama, asan, pranayam, but let's put it practical to life. Sickness may be adi and vyadhi, physical and mental. कई बार हम कहते हैं ना आदि को व्याधि बना दिया. So we've brought our mental state, having it impacting on our physical state and gone our wellness. Then we have lethargy, apathy. We know that it has to be done, but then we procrastinate. That is bad. Then there's also the feeling of doubt. And when we have doubt, we need to seek guidance to clear the doubts. But at times, what happens? We think that we'll belittle ourselves when we go to somebody for guidance. No, apne bhalai ke liye chalo. Then there's negligence, laziness. And after that, we have this strict way of life as it is, looking only at worldly pleasures, what I can enjoy now, and continue indulging into that, that becomes addiction. Instead of being moderate, using moderation as the key to stay happy, to stay well in life. Then there's the confusion and misunderstandings of life. And remember, on the practice of yoga, be it hatha yoga or be it yoga of meditation, the science of meditation, this is all spiritual sciences. When we fail to attain a certain stage, don't be discouraged. Things don't happen in one flight. Even the baby starts walking one step at a time. So let's not be discouraged when we fail to attain what we are trying to reach. Then the last one is instability. When we reach a stage, don't think we've reached perfection and we stop the practice. Because what happens? Then we'll have to start from scratch, start from zero. And one example, take those who run the marathon, no, the sprint or even the marathon in the Olympics. They practice daily, morning, afternoon, night, for 4 years to reach the Olympics. And those sprint, they run for 9 seconds, 20 seconds, or the marathon for a few hours, and they get the gold medal. That practice is there. So it's not a question of whether we've not reached that target, we get discouraged, or we've reached that target, we assume that we are now, as we say, sarve sarva. No, just be careful. Then be careful on the next step. Yogi is telling us, Dukh dormanasya jayatva shras prashrasa vikshepa sabhuva. Recognize the source of disturbances, the source of dukh, grief, dormanasya. Whenever we are not reaching our step, we get irritated. That is the negative path. Instead, sit down, analyze, do introspection, why we failed. Then we'll grow. As the Veda says, Bhutam Bhuvanam Bhavishyat. Learn from the past, learn from the present, and plan the future. That is, learn from the past, leave your present learning from the past, and learning from the present, and also plan the future. And then it says, Angame Jayatva, shaking of limbs. When circumstances happen, when we feel shivering, especially cold shivers, that is a signal by Almighty Ishwar to review our strategies. There's the irregular breathing process. Saans jaldi jaldi hum lete hain. When we reach those circumstances, just give a pause. And that's the importance of meditation, to learn to give a pause in life. And when we give that pause, we'll be able to get time, recover ourselves, and that peaceful time would enable us to review our strategies to maintain sound body, mind, and spirit, the wellness that we want to achieve. And if I would refer to the sound engineer of Slumdog Millionaire receiving the Oscar. He said one thing in his acceptance speech: I'm grateful to my country, which has the science, the knowledge of teaching us to reach moments of silence. And these are the moments that I use to be creative. And that's why I'm here in front of you to receive the Oscar. So he even was talking, not directly, but indirectly on that path of meditation. And after that, look, if we want to be happy in life, the Yoga Darshan teaches us 4 behavioral patterns. Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekshanam, Sukha, Dukha, Punya, Punya, Vishayanam, Bhavna, Tahas, Chitta, Prasadanam. Chit Prasadanam. Chit prasann ho. Because whatever happiness we feel, it's at the level of the chit, mind, not body. So let's be maitri towards the sukhi, friendship towards those who are happy, karuna towards dukkha, compassion, empathy towards the suffering and the needy. Then mudita towards the punya. Be content, contentment to those who are ethical in their thoughts, speech, and actions. And there we learn from life. Unfortunately, when we see people happy, we see people working on basis of ethics, principles in life, what we tend to do, we tend to look at these people with envy. Instead of learning from their life, we are jealous of them, and we be unhappy. But Yoga Darshan is still teaching us, be friendly with those who are happy. Be content when you see people going on the path of ethics, on the path of principles in life. But towards the cruel, don't waste your time by hating them. Just be indifferent. Upeksha apunya. I'm connecting the dots. Indifference towards the cruel or those who hinder physical, moral, spiritual, and social progress. And that leads us to what state? Chitta prasadanam. When we are mentally happy, we'll find the ways also to be happy at the level of the body, at the level of the spirit. So it's that concept, not only being happy at the level of the body, but body, mind, and spirit. And Yoga Darshan, you will say, here probably it joins Ayurveda. Janma Oshadhi Mantra Tapa Samadhija Siddhaya. For our achievements, we need to pay attention. The circumstances of our birth and upbringing. We can't correct those circumstances, but we can learn and avoid the mistakes. Oshadhi, food and medicinal herbs. Mantra, incantation, jap. And this is the best way when we say we can't focus. When we sit down in meditation, all the thoughts are just flowing. Let them flow, but engage in positive mantra chanting. What happens? At one point in time, we'll get disconnected to the flow of thoughts. We'll be only focused on our mantra chanting. Then the path to dhyan becomes easy. The path to focus in whatever we do in life, let alone meditation, it becomes easy. And I know people, when they prepare the food, I know some of the ladies, when they prepare the food, at that time, there's no radio, no TV, no mobile, nothing. They are just doing it as a passion, fully involved in that. And if you ask them, what are you doing? They say, main to mantra jap kar rahi hu. And I will give you one example. Those who are doing langar in the Gurudwara, this is their state of mind. Those who are doing langar in the mandir, when at the time of the pujas, though we find people coming to puja more as tamashebazi, show off. But those who are involved at that level in the kitchen, they're all dedicated with their passion. And ask them, what did you do when you were cooking? They will say, main to Bhagwan ka dhyan kar raha tha. And the pleasure, the level of peace that they have at that moment, they can't describe. So that is where the Yoga Darshan also is leading us. Janma Oshadhi mantra, tapa, develop resilience, especially when we are doing seva towards our family, towards the community at large. We need resilience. We'll hear people talking about the here and there, but let's be focused. And this is where we'll come to realization. And if I take it in day-to-day life also for students, or even for most of you in the teaching profession, it says, Swadhyay, the 4-step process. Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan, Sakshatkar. So for whatever we've Shravan, listened to, I would include reading and everything. We need to do what? Manan. Sit down, contemplate on that. And when contemplating, we'll see our mind starts clearing off. We'll better understand what we are reading, what we are listening to. Then, Nididhyasan, put the question for and against. And when you come to your real conclusion, this is the step of Sakshatkar realization. So this is from the Upanishad, this one is from the Yoga Darshan. If you go into Ayurveda, it will boil down to the same thing. If you go to the Vedas, it will boil down to the same thing. And remember, in the Gita, the beauty of it, in the last chapter, I think it should be Shlok 43 or 63, something like that. When Sri Krishna has given the whole knowledge to Arjun, he tells Arjun, the decision is now yours. आप मनन करो, मनन करने के बाद अपने conclusion पे आ जाओ, अपने निष्कर्ष पे आ जाओ, फिर मुझे बताना क्या करना है. So it's telling Arjun, contemplate of the knowledge, don't take it blindly. Contemplate of that, put your questions, come to your answers. Once you've come to your conclusion, tell me what you need to do. And Arjun, what he does as a bhakta, he doesn't go with a thali with flowers or with fruits or with a lamp. He just follows the knowledge, steps into the knowledge, and Shri Krishna becomes the charioteer and the victory is his. If I translate it to our life, let's take yoga, Ayurveda, the knowledge of the Darshan Shastra, the knowledge of the Vedas. I don't say you need to go into the depth of it. Take the essence of it. Take the essence of it, live your life accordingly, let it filter down in your life, and you'll reach that state of siddhaya, realization, sakshatkar. And that would be for the various levels of wellness, physical, mental, moral, spiritual, social wellness, body, mind, spirit. So we'll be clearing all our doubts and go into that. And when mantra is being said in that shlok, I come back, the first one was 401, that is in the last part of, this is the first sutra of the fourth or last chapter of Yog Darshan. I would come back to first chapter, Sutra 28. Tad japas tadartha bhavanam. जिस भी मंत्र का हम लेकर के जाप करें उसके अर्थ भी जानो. So when you do the repetition of the mantras, repeating jap of the mantras with the meaning, your mind won't go out because you're focused on the mantra and the meaning. It's running concurrently. There's no room for you, for your mind or for your emotions to go out of what you're doing. And when you do that for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 15 minutes daily, what will happen? Whatever else you'll tackle in life, this would be the same state of mind that you would be practicing. People say, no, it's difficult. I put the question, when you are before the screen, TV, laptop, mobile, tablet, you can stay for hours without any external disturbance. So why can't you bring down that into life? And this is where jap teaches us to bring that same spirit of focus in our life. And remember, when we're doing the proper jap, the vibrations of the mantra is going to do sound therapy with us. Then baby steps count. Before ending, I will just give you another mantra, which I connect always to pranayama, which is in our Dainik Sandhya, Dainik prayers, which we need to do morning and evening. It says, take a deep breath, and then you go on the 7 steps. Om Bhu, Om Bhuva, Om Swaha, Om Maha, Om Jana, Om Tapa, Om Satyam. So if you do it synchronized with one deep inhale and exhaling that mantra, saying it slowly, and by the time you reach the end of it, the whole lungs are cleared out with the breath that was in there, and you increase the usage of the lungs. Because when you do that mantra jap, your belly goes inside. It pushes the diaphragm up and the lungs emptied. Do you see how synchronized even the mantras are? It brings you to that state where you're optimizing your lung usage. And at the same time, when focusing on the mantra chanting, the vibrations are going to bring down your mental activities. And at that point in time, The more oxygen that you'll breathe in after saying that mantra once, you'll need to take now a deep breath to say it a second time. You're going to give better oxygen supply to your brain. So physical effect is there. Mental effect is there. The spiritual connect is there in one and the same process. We need not find time. We say, this is my time for this, this is my time for this, my time for this. It goes integrated. And you know, Sandhyan, Sanatan Dharma, the beauty of it, the second mantra says, Om Vak Vak, Prana Prana, Chakshu Chakshu. It's moving across the various parts of the body. So if you're moving your energy level through focus to the various parts of the body, you need not sit down to do other form of practice of yoga, because this is a holistic integration of all the modern systems of yoga, which has broken down as we know here, we have the wheel. If we take each and every axle around, can the wheel now turn smoothly? This is what we've done, taking each of the axle from the wheel, putting it as standalone. Then the central part of the wheel will continue turning, but the outside won't turn. Let's not do that in the practice of yoga, in the practice of even Hatha Yoga, even meditation, even pranayama. It's all an integrated process. And this is where, as I say, it's not a ritual for religious purposes. It's a ritual which connects us to spirituality as spiritual reality in life. That is the definition I give to spirituality. I break it into two: spiritual reality in day-to-day life. So this is where, if we want the concept of wellness in the world of today, 2022, the ancient knowledge, which dates from billions of years, in fact, it's 1.96 billion of years. And if we look at the last text we have, the Gita is minimum 5,100 years back. This is the evergreen knowledge handed over to us. Let's put it practical in day-to-day life. So the last point, remember, I've given it to you, to most of you probably several times, to live a happy life, whatever be the circumstances in life, especially when it's not hamare anukul na ho, koi baat nahi. Let it be, let it go. So I don't lose my temper, I keep my calm. And if सामने वाले व्यक्ति अगर बिगड़ गया, if the person in front of us has gone mad, tell him, okay, you think you're right, I'm right, Ishwar nyay karega, the law of karma will operate, justice will happen, God will do justice. That's a boost up, not to lose, that's a booster dose, as we say, to maintain our calm. We'll stay away from those who create ruckus. We'll be undisturbed, unstupefied. We'll have the peace in our life. And this is what we are looking for. And we need peace to stay happy, even if we are 100% physically well. So just remember, अपने मन की शांति के चाबी दूसरों के हाथ में नहीं देना, अपने साथ रखना. Keep the keys to your internal peace with you. Don't give it to others, because ये लोग आपको गड्ढे में ले जाएंगे. They will bring you down to the gutters. Such attitude empowers us to be healthy and happy at all times, undisturbed by whatever be the circumstances or however others may react to us. And these are none else from the Vedas, Yoga Sutras, all the texts given to you. And then my homage, ultimate thanks to my gurus whom I had in life, and to all of you who've given me this opportunity to be in front of you. Thank you all. Om Shanti Shanti Dhanyavad. I think if we have some time, we can take a few questions.
Sure. Thank you so much for enlightening us, and it is always treat to ears to listen to your wisdom and guidance. So I would like to take one question from here, that can yoga provide a sustainable community health solution? Did the COVID experience help to change the outlook of the world toward ancient Indian science such as yoga and Ayurveda? Because during COVID, many recipes of kadhas were followed by different countries even, and here in USA they have introduced golden turmeric latte.
Yeah.
What our mothers used to give us, haldi ka doodh.
Yeah.
So what's your opinion, because you are traveling across the countries? What's your opinion about that?
Yeah, I think yoga and Ayurveda combined, because it's not to be looked as two different sets of knowledge. Integrate them. I think we should be safe. If you look at the wrong behavior of people, it was failure from their part to follow yama and yama. When the guidelines are there, stay at home, I am out. This is hinsa towards others, violence towards others. Then when I'm going to the shop, I know probably I need to buy provision for 1 month. I've bought for 1 year. I'm doing hinsa towards others. While I'm being violent towards others, though it's not physical violence, but it's one form of violence. Then it's a parigraha. I'm taking more than what I require. Probably is in those dire times, a stock of 1 month, 3 months would do. But I can't go and buy one trolley full of wheat flour, another trolley full of oil, another trolley full of rice, another trolley full of the gallons of milk. These are going to reach an expiry period. And I'm depriving others of reasonable amount of food. So these are the solutions. And then for the mental distress we were suffering, I think for those who've been doing specially some asana, some pranayam, and some dhyan meditation, they fared safely through the lockdowns. So that ancient knowledge is not something to be put aside. And rightly said, not only the golden latte milk, doodh or haldi, we find people going back to ajwain, carom seeds in the West.
Yeah.
We found people going to jeera,
Cumin. Yeah.
cumin. We find people going to curry patta. We found people going to lemongrass in the Western world. And there's a craze for such things now in the Western world. And preventive measure. Not only curative, but now people take it regularly as preventive. So that's the beauty of the knowledge. But unfortunately, हम क्या करते हैं, जिसको हम मोटी भाषा में कहते हैं ना, घर की मुर्गी दाल बराबर. Unfortunately, we don't value what we have. ये संतोष को हमने छोड़ दिए. Be happy with what we have. And it was the best of the recipes, which we forgot.
Right. So as we are becoming universal and we are talking about universal, so what's your opinion on yoga being an Indian or Hindu specific tradition and its dharmic roots? So is it possible to perceive or adopt yoga without its dharmic roots and yet benefit holistically from it? As a practitioner, I understand that yoga is something that is universal. But how do we establish it universally? Because most of the time it is correlated with religion, specific religion, and people abstain to follow it, although they know it is a scientific foundation.
That is clear. Unfortunately, the Western world has given one definition of dharmic to us, religion. Where if you look at the basis of that word dharma, dharma means righteous living.
Righteous.
And if we want to understand what may be dharma, let's go only to the 5 yamas and 5 niyamas. That gives you the broad perspective of what is dharma. If I say ahimsa, non-violence, who the hell in this world will say, no, this doesn't apply to me? Satya, truth. Asteya, non-stealing. Brahmacharya, control over the senses, self-restraint, etc. Aparigraha, that is, we need also to be compassionate towards others, not hold for ourselves. Salt, purity of mind, body, and spirit. Santosh, be content. Tapa, practice some tolerance of hardship to build resilience so that we can better face adversities. Swadhyay, connecting to the scriptures, connecting to good knowledge. Ishwar Pranidhan, just surrender to God. Which religion of this world can deny those as universal precepts? I don't find any. In fact, if I go into the basics of the moral values taught by others, I interact often in interfaith meeting. These people are surprised. They reckon the Vedas and the Hindu scriptures as being the oldest book of humanity. But they say, we didn't know that these come from you. They borrowed it from us.
Yes.
And in the name of secularism, what we are doing, we are dropping these. Vedas say, Ekam Sad Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. God is one. Know it by various names, no problem. But I don't agree to that. But when the person will come with the first commandment of the Bible, God is one, I say, okay, that is good. अरे भाई अपने मूल को भूल करके दूसरों को पकड़ रहे हो. When I say asteya, चोरी नहीं करना है. To hell with this, I need to be rich fast. But the other will come and say, the Bible says, do not steal. Brahmacharya says, no, I need to enjoy life, merrymaking. But the other one will come and say, God has said you shouldn't commit adultery. So where does that come from? In fact, ours is universal. हाँ, पूजा पद्धति को छोड़ो. पूजा पद्धति को अगर हमने अलग रख दिए, everything is universal. Now, if I look into puja paddhati also, if I look at the subtle features of that, देखो हम जल पहले चीज जो हम पूजा पद्धति में हम यूज करते हैं, it's water. What does water teaches us in life? Purity. Water teaches us peace. If you fill a bucket with water, it becomes calm. Drop a pebble, the waves are there. When it comes back to the center, it's again peace. What is bonding? आप चावल को लेकर के पका लें. The transformation and that bonding with wheat or rice, you can't revert back to the original grain, rice grain, or the flour. So whatever be the transformation in life, we don't go back to where we stood before.
Right.
So if I take bits and each and every step of our rituals, it's imbibed with the spirituality which we fail to understand. Unfortunately, we've sticked only to rituals. And if we start promoting the spiritual undertones of the rituals, the universal concepts of dharma as righteous living, the universal concepts of yoga, just as taught that. I showed it to you by the various sutras, the mantras from the yoga. When we are talking about Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, what is more than universal than that can be? Or call it secular. I think this is the most secular thing because it applies to all. It doesn't stick to me. Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santo Niramaya. We need the knowledge, to be able to argue and to put the dots on the I. Otherwise, we are lost when people talk to us. We don't have the knowledge. We can't present our arguments. And then we say, chalo bhai, these are the people who are right. And we just follow the group behavior. जैसे हम कहते हैं ना, भैंस और भेड़ आदि को जब चलाते हैं, एक ने सर आगे डाल दिया, सब उसी को follow करते हैं. Don't be like that.
Right.
That's why Yoga teaches us avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh, in kleshon se dur raho. Look for the proper knowledge, and I think we'll be able to make the right impact.
Wow, that's the great input to clear and give the clarity about dharma is a righteous doing. And let us not correlate it with other concepts. And about the rituals, I would like to share with everyone. There was very high kind of an objection. We have always seen or heard Murti Puja. And now here, during the COVID, in USA, they have started worshipping a gratitude stone. They have built a stone where they can worship, and they call it as a gratitude stone. Now the Western world actually is getting all or accepting and following all the concepts given in yoga, the philosophy of yoga, our ancient scriptures, and they are just changing the names because they want to follow it. And previously, because they have objected, now they are just changing their name and following everything what we are doing since years. Yeah.
It's repackaging and rebranding and marketing.
Rebranding. Exactly. Now, instead of calling it meditation, or pranayama, they are rebranding it as a breath work. Meditation, they are rebranding it mindfulness. And I am afraid that coming 30 years, people will forget about Hatha Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Vinyasa Yoga, as they are introducing beer yoga, deer yoga, goat yoga. So we need to take the lead to spread the knowledge, the real sciences and real foundation behind yoga and Ayurveda. Ayurveda is a sister science of yoga, and yoga is teaching a way of life. So one question was there, which of course you have already answered, that only following two limbs, asana and pranayama, can we call it a practice of yoga, not practicing other limbs of yoga. I hope the answer is already given by Acharya ji, that all the limbs are very, very important, starting from yama and niyama. So when we start following these two limbs and practice asana and pranayam, then other four concepts of pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, and samadhi, we can gradually move towards it, because there is no word like perfection in yoga. It is a practice, and the levels can be achieved, and there are endless levels. Still, we don't know how much in depth we can go into the brain, into the thought process, how much purification we can attain, how much calmness we can attain. And let's begin this mission to spread the knowledge of yoga. All of you who would like to join the international mission to promote yoga internationally, globally, we are conducting regularly yoga teacher training course. We call it YTTC, 500 hours from Yoga Alliance USA. And the next batch is starting from 21st April 2022. Why we are conducting the courses from Yoga Alliance USA? To establish the real foundation of sciences through our culture, through our ancient scriptures, because if you work internationally, you will notice that the rebranding is going on. And the ancient wisdom वो जो हमारी धरोहर है इंडिया की, if they are rebranding it. So it is very much essential if we want Vishwa Guru. India has to become a Vishwa Guru, guiding every nation towards Satya, Ahimsa, purity, calmness, aparigraha. Then we all should join this movement, this mission, and help India to promote yoga and Ayurveda as an ancient wisdom globally, universally. Thank you so much, Acharya ji. Dharmic ji, would you like to say something?
Yes.
Ji.
Namaste, Acharya ji. Dr. Ji,
Namaste ji.
Namaste, namaste. Haji, I have heard your lecture, but unfortunately this morning I did not get in because due to the time, I other time in place of deducting. So that was my fault. About yoga, how do you could join or say link memory, thought, and intelligence to yoga, or what you say consciousness? What is the difference between these words in pertaining to yoga on its own, on the whole?
Yoga, huge word from Sanskrit. It means connecting. Unfortunately, the world of today has been looking into various bits and pieces in isolation. As I gave the example on the diagram with the Ashtanga Yoga, we have a wheel. We have the spokes connecting the inner axle to the outer wheel. This is one way of connecting that. We connect the body, mind, and spirit. We connect our consciousness, that is the soul. And we connect that with the Supreme Soul. So whatever we are connecting, remember it's all a process of connecting. And for that connection, especially at the subtle level, we need to engage the subtle organ in this body. जिसको हम कहते हैं ना, सूक्ष्म चीजों को जानने के लिए सूक्ष्म यंत्र होना चाहिए. Like to know the smallest particle, you know, the finest microscope. And that has been given to us by God as man. Unfortunately, we have no equivalent word. We use mind. But mind is not the brain. The brain is the hardware. The mind is the software behind. The intellect is the software running the brain. If the brain was equivalent to the mind, it should have continued functioning after even death, but it doesn't function. And remember, when somebody can be brain dead, but the body is still living. And that is the state which we say as vegetable. That is also giving us the sign in life. If we don't have stability in life, when do we have it? When we are vegetables. And Ayurveda refers to that as Sthavara and Jangam Yoni. Sthavara, those who are only at one place at a time. And Jangam is those who are moving. So we are moving, but then we need to take time to be stable, to sit down in serenity, in calmness, to be able to realize the connection and enhance that. It's like a car. The steering wheel, the brakes, the clutch, the steptronic system you have for changing the gears, all are connected. If I say no, I need only the steering wheel to drive. I forget about the brakes and the clutch and everything. So I'm going for a crash. This is how the world is living life today. Forgetting the connections. And it's probably with God gifted to me, Ishwar Kripa, I just try to bring things to practical in life. So that's why I brought the connection, one to the wheel, and second, giving you to it as the vehicle as a whole. This body has its own system, which we've ignored. Man, that is Take it to be the mind or the intellect is the way where we need to bring ourselves to be at peace and harmony. And the first level of harmony is between manasa, vacha, karmana, our thoughts, our words, and our actions. Ayurveda also tells us the same thing. When it's talking about hit book, myth book, and read book, first it goes from the level of thoughts, then the ingredients that we have in front of us. And especially when it's talking about a written book, follow the principles. So if you're not stable, you can't follow the principles. And then you know that it says, Yad manasa dhyayati, tad vacha vadati, yad vacha vadati, tat karmana karoti. Our thoughts filter into our words, and our words becomes our actions. So if at the level of thoughts, यहाँ पे कुछ गड़बड़ है, तो बाकी सब गड़बड़ होगा. यहाँ पे stability है, तो everywhere will be stable. That's why yoga, meditation, combined with Ayurveda, with all the other teachings, that makes a holistic approach to healthy living.
Right. Thank you so much. I hope attending your lecture and listening your wisdom definitely will make everybody conscious about how we are living, what we are eating, what we are doing. Thank you so much. And I hope this is a quite a brilliant ending for this session and by celebrating World Health Day. I hope till next year, everybody will take care consciously about their doing, what they are thinking, what they are saying, and living holistically. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Acharya ji. Thank you, Naveed.
One last word of thanks. Thanks to God for the knowledge given to us, handed over to us through the scriptures. Thanks to our gurus, to our parents, especially, to our mentors, and to the rishis who've handed over the knowledge up down to us, to the sanskar, the good living behaviors that we've inherited from our parents, etc. And thanks to all those who made this day of today directly or indirectly contributed to the success of the program. Thank you for having me, and all the best to all of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Namaste to everyone.
Namaste.